אשתחווה אל היכל קודשך ביראתך. אדוני אהבתי מהון ביתך, ומקום משכן כבודך, משכן כבודך. מה טובו אוהליך יעקב, משכנותיך ישראל. מה טובו אוהליך. ואני אשתחווה ואכרע אברך לפני אדוני עושי. ואני תפילתי לך אדוני את רצון, אלוהים ברוב חסדך, ענני באמת אישך. מה טובו אוהליך יעקב, משכנותיך ישראל. מה טובו אוהליך. מה טובו אוהליך יעקב, משכנותיך ישראל. מה טובו אוהליך.
We ask everyone to please rise. We turn to page 5 for the Baruch.
Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Please be seated. Please be seated. We continue silently on page 5.
El Chai v'Kayam, Tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed. Baruch ata Adonai Hamariv Aravim.
Page 6.
Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael Amecha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim otanu limadta. Al ken Adonai Eloheinu b'shochveinu u'vkumeinu nasiach b'chukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד, כי הם חיינו באורך ימינו, ובהם נהגה יומם ולילה. ועבדך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Me'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, v'chol levavcha, uv'chol nafshecha, uv'chol me'otecha, v'hayu hadbarim ha'ele, asher anochi mitzavecha, hayom alevavecha, meshinantam levanecha, v'dibarta bam, v'shivtecha bebetecha, uv'lechtecha b'derech, uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha, uv'kshartam le'ot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot bein einecha, uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha, uv'isharecha. והים שמותי יש להם אשר אנוכי נתתי. הן ישפטו השמיים ורואים אתר. ויאמר אדוני אל משה לאמור דבר עד שבת. תזכרו Adonai Elohechem emet.
We're on the bottom of page 7, continuing silently.
Ve'emunah kol ze b'kayam aleinu, ki hu Adonai Eloheinu. Hoseh gedolot ad ein cheke.
We come together in the middle of page 8.
ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם משה ומרים ובני ישראל לך אנו שירה בשמחה רבה ואמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נהדר בקודש Dora tehilot ose fala Malchutcha harubanecha Bokei hayam lifnei Moshe Ze'eli Anu ve'ameru Adonai yimloch leolam נאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב גלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני
Baruch Baruch Shema
Al Yisrael.
Amen. We are on the top of page 9.
ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ולשלום מעתה ועד עולם ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך ברוך אתה אדוני הפורש סוכת שלום שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל ירושלים. תיקו בחודש שופר בכסל ליום חגנו כי חוק לישראל ומשפט לאלוהי יעקב.
We turn now to page 10. Ask everyone to please rise for Chatzi Kaddish.
יתגדל ויתקדש מרבו
Amen.
ולמד דברי קירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו Amen. Yehei Shemei Rabbah Mevarach Le'alamu Laleme Alemaya Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yipar V'yitromam V'yitnaseh V'yithadav V'yitalev V'yitalal Shemei Dekudsha V'rechu Le'ela Le'ela Mikol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata tamiran bi'alemo v'imru
We turn to the top of page 11 for the beginning of the silent Amidah. The Amidah at night is recited belachash, which is the Hebrew word for quietly. And we're going to continue silently all the way to page 17. It's a great opportunity to imagine yourself, those of you who ski, on top of the mountain, and the new year is ahead of you. And you can begin over this high holiday period to start to plot the course of your journey this year ahead. We all know once the year begins, it's hard to slow down. So let's use this time now during the Silent Amidah to sort of look at the opportunities and the obstacles we wish to avoid in the year ahead. Again, we start on page 11 silently. Still davening, please continue. The rest of us will turn to page 19 for Kaddish Shalem.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ויעמד דברה קירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי לכל בית ישראל, והגלה בזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך, להלם ולעלמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויפאר בתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשו. אמריכו לעילה לעילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה למירל מעלמה ואמרו אמן. תתקבל סלחון ובטחון דכל ישראל כל דם ובהון דבישמעיה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמעיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרמיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו amen.
Yashkoach to our Chazan for leading us in our evening services so far. Shana Tova, everyone. So I wanted to ask this evening how many of you are kindred spirits like me, that when you get a new book, it just kind of makes your heart beat a little bit faster. You hear the crackle of the binding as it opens up, and even smells good, you know? Even smells good. As you all know, and if you haven't figured out by now, look down in your hands and you're going to notice that the machzor that we have is not the same machzor that we have been using for, well, 30 plus years. And so I wanted to do two things today. One, I wanted to share with you a little bit about why we've made the change. And then as we approach these high holy days, because this machzor is a little bit different, I want to talk about how to use it and actually go on a little bit of a machzor tour this evening. And that's what I wanted to do. So, first of all, why did we make the change? The machzor that we used to use is called machzor chadash, which means the new machzor. It isn't. Right? We've been using that machzor for, as I said, more than 30 years. And actually, there have been multiple editions that have come out. And for those who have been davening here for a long time, you know, sometimes as you read through the translation, it says king, and sometimes it says sovereign, right? It goes back and forth. And we actually had two different editions, and it was kind of a little bit of Russian roulette to see, okay, which reading are we going to get when the person comes up here and reads versus what do other people say? We had these two editions floating around. So number one, we had actually, in the old machzor, a very antiquated translation. It really didn't meet our needs for a modern machzor, didn't meet our needs for a modern service. The Hebrew, obviously, for the most part, was the same, but the English really didn't speak to a lot of people. And I think you're going to find as we go through this new machzor that that'll be a little bit different. We also had an old machzor that was a little out of date conceptually. So as we changed some of the things that we did, even back more than 20 years ago when Rabbi Zuckerman was here, we changed to add the imahot, the matriarchs, in our Amidah. Well, that machzor didn't have it in. So if you remember, it was stuck in the very back cover, right? And every time we did an Amidah, we had to go back and forth. You're going to find that the matriarchs are actually on our page right along with, and so we're not going to have to go back and forth anymore. Actually, probably the most important reason that we've made the change is Machzor Chadash is out of print. So that at this point in time, we couldn't even get new ones if we wanted to. So all of this together really started a conversation Rabbi Ern and I had. We went to our Jewish Life and Practices Committee and we said, no, now is the time. Now is the time, especially after COVID, now we're coming back, now is the time to change to this new machzor. And the machzor is called Machzor Lev Shalem, which means, the machzor Lev Shalem means a full heart. And this machzor is the machzor of the conservative movement at this point in time. Most conservative synagogues are using this machzor. You're going to see, it's a little off our topic for today, you're going to see come January, we're actually switching our Sidurim as well to Sidur Lev Shalem, so that both the Sidur and the machzor will be in sync with one another. They'll look the same, they'll act the same as we go through. So, I guess, as we look at this machzor, it begs the question, do we follow along in a machzor, or do we use our machzor? I would say for most of us, for the old machzor, we would follow along. Because the words are there, we're listening to the words as the Chazan sings, we're listening to the words as we read through our readings, but there wasn't a lot of extra material that was there. There was some, but there wasn't a lot of extra material. The first thing you're going to find when we're using this machzor is that it's meant not to be followed, but it's meant to be used. It's meant to actually take a little bit of time and look at what's on the page. So let's do that. Let's open up to page 5. One of the first things we're going to see on the English side are very clear translations. That's going to be in the middle of that English page. By the way, the other thing that you'll see is that the English and the Hebrew pages are actually the same. In some machzorim and some sidurim, the English and the Hebrew were different page numbers, which also made it a little difficult. This way, when Rabbi Aaron or I say we're on page 5, we know we're on page 5, and you can be looking in the English, you can be looking in the Hebrew. Either one works. But if you look around the outside, you're going to start to see some other things. On the Hebrew side of the page, to the far right margin, you're going to find what we call commentary. What do we mean by commentary? That is going to take some words or an idea or even just the theme of that particular prayer and explain it. It may bring rabbinic traditions. It may bring some explanations to help us understand the words that we're reading on a deeper level. If we look to the left side of the page, all the way on the English side of the page on the margin, you're going to see readings and additional thoughts, I would say, additional citations. These are going to be from rabbis, from scholars, from teachers throughout our Jewish history. You can see here we have on the top of page 5 a reading from Harold Schulweis, who was the rabbi for a long time at Valley Beshalom up in Los Angeles. We have Andre Unger at the bottom. If you turn to the next page, we see Abraham Joshua Heschel and Marcia Falk. These are some of the greatest minds that we have, and we get, as we're going through these prayers, we get to actually take some time to read, to learn, to see, and to go deeper into what it is that we are experiencing. In addition to all of that, you're going to notice some symbology that is going to be important as we go through. So let's look at the Hebrew side of the page just for a moment. First of all, we see English directions that are very, very clear. We rise, the leader says this, the congregation, then the leader repeats, then we're seated. Clear directions so that you don't need to wait for Rabbi Ern or I to go like this or like this, that we learned so well in rabbinical school, right? You can see for yourself and feel like you're following along with the rhythm without depending so much on us. You're there, you're with us, you know what's coming as we go. If you look on the Hebrew side towards the bottom, you're going to see a red arrowhead. It's 5 lines up from the bottom of the Hebrew. that is typically when our chazan is davening, when he's praying through, and sometimes we go silent, that's typically where he's going to pick up. Not always. Sometimes our chazan feels a little rebellious, and he'll go to another place and start somewhere else. But for the most part, that's where he is going to start. So if you're reading along and your eyes move over to Harold Schulweiss's reading and you're focusing on that, and then you hear the chazan pick up at the bottom of the page, you're now going to know where to look. You're going to be able to follow along there as well. The other piece, which is also really important, if you look at the second line of the Baruch Hu, you'll see a red little squiggle. It's the best I can describe what it is. It's unique to this book. What does that mean? Anybody know? Bow, right? Whenever you see that little squiggle, that's an indication to you that that is a place that we're going to bow. So we're going to see it at the Amidah. We're going to see it in the Kaddish. We're going to see it in different places where we are supposed to bow. And that little squiggle is there to tell us. And by the way, it's in both the Hebrew and the English. The other thing that I'll say, if we turn to the next page, you'll see that the things that are in red are there to help you through the service. Those are your aids, whether it's instruction, whether it's not interpretation so much, but for example, if you look at the Shema, some people may wish to pause here for a moment. Some may close their eyes. Others place a hand over their eyes. The intention is to concentrate on the oneness of God. So we see a lot of things happening in our service. We say the Shema, we cover our eyes, but if somebody's unfamiliar with that, they're going to be left out. And this Machzor tries to help bring people along and explain what is it that we're doing. So if you ever feel that you're a little confused or you're waiting for some instruction on what to do and why to do it, look for these red sections. You'll also find critical transliteration in the red section. So if you look over on the other side, we see Avat Olam, we see the Ve'ahavta at the bottom of the page. So if your Hebrew is not up to a place yet where you feel like you can read the Machzor beginning to end, don't worry. You'll be able to follow along as we go through. This Machzor allows us to make choices, and that's one of the reasons why I like it so much. Because a davening experience should be an experience of choice, right? As we go through and as we're singing, all too often we feel that we have to be in lockstep, and every time I or Rabbi Ern calls a page, well, doesn't matter if we're finished or not, we have to turn the page. Every time the Chazan starts a new place, well, if he's there, that's where we need to be. And while it's true, there are certain parts of our service that we all need to be together, the Kedusha, Baruch Hu. For the most part, that's not necessary. And I'm going to encourage you over these high holidays to use this Machzor, to find some time to wander a little bit. Don't worry if you're a page or two behind. We'll call a page in a minute or two, and you'll be able to catch up with us. But take the opportunity, find those things that are going to spark your interest, that are going to let your mind understand on a larger level and a greater level these prayers that we have in front of us. That's the purpose of our tefillah. Now, before I end, I do need to say there are a couple of changes in this that we actually are going to take a different tradition to, or let me explain why we do some of the changes and don't do other of the changes. As I mentioned, the matriarchs. It's nice to have them on the page, but let's look for a moment at the Amidah that we just did. You can find it on page 11. We have some wonderful interpretation. We have some instruction above on the Hebrew side and on the English side. We've got Hasidic teachings. We've got all sorts of things on the page. And then as we go down in the middle of the page, we see the version with just the patriarchs is to the right. The version with the patriarchs and matriarchs is to the left. Now, we have been doing that here for more than 20 years. Actually, probably close to 30 years. But one of the things that this Sidur, or this Machzor, has that we don't do, if you look at the words, it says Elohei, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu, and then in square brackets it says ve'imotenu. So avotenu means our ancestors. It is in the masculine form, so you could say our fathers, and imotenu is in the feminine form, for our matriarchs, our mothers. But you're going to notice as we go through that we actually are not choosing to include the square brackets, even though we include Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah in the names as we go through. Now the question is why, and it's one of grammar. In Hebrew, if you want to connote a mixed group of people, male and female, you use the third person plural masculine. That's the grammar that Hebrew does. So avotenu includes matriarchs and patriarchs. Now it's true, our rabbis for many years says, no, it's just the patriarchs. But that's actually not the case. One of the things that I loved about this tefillah as a conservative Jew is avotenu doesn't just mean our patriarchs. It means our matriarchs as well. So when we use the word avotenu, it actually includes our matriarchs. So why then do we name Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah? Because when we list Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob without the others, we're excluding them. So in a place where we are going to exclude, we're going to make sure that we put our matriarchs there as well, and the feminine as well. In a place that already grammatically includes both, there's no need to do that. Now, who caught the big change in our tefillah as our chazan was singing today? It was right before Mi Chamocha. If you look in the middle of page 8, Umalchuto beratzo kiblu alehem, Moshe uMiriam uvnei Yisrael. Now Miriam is included here without a bracket. And we are including Miriam here. Why? Because to just say Moshe excludes Miriam. And Miriam was there too. Miriam actually led a song as well for the women, just as Moshe did for the people. And so it's been included in here without a bracket, and you're going to notice as we go through, we're going to include this. It's here. You're going to see it in the Sidur as well. Our B'nai Mitzvah are actually going to have to learn, those who do Shacharit, are going to have to relearn that piece of it as we go through. These are some of the highlights as we experience this Machzor. And it's my hope that as you study, as you learn, as you, especially maybe during Yom Kippur where we're here for hours, you let your mind wander through the richness that is in this text. And I think if you do, you'll find very clearly why it is that Rabbi Ern and I chose this Machzor to be our new Machzor, and I think you're going to enjoy it quite a bit. Shana Tova, I hope this new Machzor brings new opportunities, new visions, new perspectives as we look at this new year. Shana Tova u'metuka.
continue our service with Aleinu. Even though the Sidur, the Machzor gives us guidance, I will still remind everyone to please rise as we turn to page 25 for Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'teit kidun l'yotzer breshit, shelo asanu kegoye ha'aratzot, velo samanu kemishpechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל ושכינתו זו בגובהי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, ידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא אלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. על כן נחמד לך, לא נחמד לך. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד ושמו אחד.
Mourner's Kaddish is found on page 26. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divra kirute v'yamlich malchute. Bechayechon uvyomechon uvechaye dechol beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uvizman kariv imru amen. Yehe shemei rabba mevarach le'olam olamei almaya. Yit barach v'yishtabach v'yit po'ar v'yit romam v'yit naseh. V'yit hadar v'yit aleh v'yit halal shemei dekudesha barichu. Le'ela le'ela mikol birchata v'shirata. Tush bechata v'nechamata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehe shalama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom imromav huya aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Amen.
We're going to turn now to page 27, Psalm 27 on page 27. Way to go, Machzor. Chazan, if you will lead us on page 27.
לדוד אדוני אורי וישימי מאירה אדוני מעוז חיי ממי אבחן בקרוב עלי אחת שאלתי מאת אדוני אותה אבקש אחת שאלתי מאת אדוני אותה אבקש beit Adonai kol yemei chayai lachazot benoam Adonai ulvaker beheichalo lachazot benoam Adonai ulvaker beheichalo ki tzpaneni b'socha Shema ki aviv bia Ulehem hanti lirot betuv Adonai be'eretz chayim kaveh el Adonai chazak ve'ametz libecha mekaveh el Adonai.
We turn back to page 26 for Mourner's Kaddish. Yit gadal v'yit kadash shemei rabbah
Amen.
be'alma divra kerute v'yamlich malchute b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chaye dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala u'vizman kariv imru amen. Yehi shemei rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lamei almaya. Yit barach v'yishtabach v'yit po'ar v'yit romam v'yit naseh. V'yit hadar, v'yit aleh, v'yit halal, shemei dekudesha, berichu. La'ela, mikol birchata v'shirata. Tush bechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehe shalama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, huya aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru. Amen.
Amen.
May God, amongst priests in the heavens, bring peace unto us, and let us say together, Amen. We're going to turn now to page 28 for Yigdal. How about some announcements? Well, that's not on the outline here, but we can still do announcements. Not on the Machzor, but announcements. So services tomorrow are at 8:45 a.m. 9:15 is our ECC preschool service. 9:15 or 9:30? 9:30. Thank you very much. Those who are paying attention to their ticket. 9:30, and then our K-6 program begins at 10 o'clock, and that includes preschool daycare that also includes at 10 o'clock as well. On Tuesday, services are also at 8:45, and then Tuesday afternoon, just be mindful of the new location for Tashlich, which is going to be at the Delmar Fairgrounds. So if you, I know we have directions in our emails. If you have any questions about where that's going to be, please make sure you find one of our staffing team so that you know where to be. And we're going to walk over around.
We are going to meet here at 3:15. We're going to leave this parking lot at 3:30 sharp to walk from here to the Delmar Fairground. The other thing to note, not only is there a new location, and again, follow the directions, but we know that people have in the past brought, shall we say, loaves of bread to bring to Tashlich, to share. We're going to ask actually that people bring breadcrumbs. If you don't have them, we will have to provide for you. But we want to be a little bit more environmentally sensitive than throwing loaves of bread into the San Dieguito River as we go. And we'll, I'm sure the fish will enjoy the breadcrumbs just as much.
And if anyone feels the need to bring a loaf of bread because of a sin, hey, you know what?
Bring
There's
peanut butter and
tshuva,
jelly
bring
as
peanut
well.
butter. Yeah. Correct. Okay, anything else?
No.
Okay, we're going to turn now to Yigdal on page 28.
Yigdal Elohim chai v'yishtabach nimsa ve'enei tel metziuto
Echad v'en yachid keichudo lam vegam tov leachduto.
אין לו דמות הגוף ואינו גוף, לא נערוך אליו קדושתו.
Kadmon lechol davar asher nivra rishon ve'en reshit lereshito.
אינו אדון עולם וכל נוצר, יורה גדולתו ומלכותו.
Shefa nevuato netano el anshe segulato vetifarto.
לא קם בישראל כמו שעוד, נביא ומביט את אמונתו.
Torah demenatan leamoel haya nevio neman beito.
לא יחל יפעל ולא ימיר דתו, לעולמים לזולתו.
Tzofe ve'yodea setarenu mabid lesov davar bekadmato.
דומה לאיש חסד כמפעלו, נותן רשע כרישתו.
Yishlach leketz yamin meshichenu lifdod mechakeketz Yeshuato.
מתים יחייל ברוב חסדו, ברוך הדייד שם תהילתו. מתים יחייל ברוב חסדו, ברוך הדייד שם תהילתו.
I'd like to ask everyone to please rise for Kiddush. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar bana mikol am v'romana mikol ashon v'kiddishanu b'mitzvotav. Vatiten lanu Adonai lanu be'ahava et yom hazikaron hazeh yom teruah mikra kodet zecher litziat mitzrayim kivanu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim udbracha emed v'kayam la'ad Baruch atah Adonai melech kol haaretz mekadesh Yisrael v'yom hazikaron. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechayanu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. L'shana tova tikatevu v'tichatemu. Shana tova. Shana tova. This concludes our service.